Well, I could hear the whispers as I was coming up. Must be some young entrepreneur was not able to get here today, so they sent in grandfather who is writing the checks. Actually, one of my favorite quotations is, knowledge comes from experience, wisdom comes from bad experience. So one of the advantages of having a few miles on you is that you see a lot. And we put together an extraordinary team that had the collective wisdom to create what we consider the perfect product in the ideal business. So let's quickly go through this. This is not a nine-minute presentation, but we're going to hustle through it and see what we can do here. Here's the elevator pitch. You have to stop on a couple of floors, but I'm going to Can you hear me? Okay, this is better. All right, you'll be able to see me a little better. So there's unprecedented need today for better decision support capability. Never have we seen such difficulties in business, government, and indeed in personal lives. We'll come back to this. The problem, most decision support capabilities are poor. So there's a need for better technologies. What's the solution? We've put together a product called Optimal that provides decision optimization. We'll come back and talk a little bit about that. The value proposition, this is really compelling, but it's measurable savings and measurable financial benefits. As well, we get operational improvements. We'll come back and talk about that a little bit more. What's the market? It's difficult to measure, but it's very big, in effect, limitless, because decisions are made continuously throughout business, government, and indeed personal lives. And what we really have done, we're establishing ourselves to be the go-to company for decision optimization solutions. And we consider the venture to be both lucrative as well as something that is noble, because helping people make better decisions is indeed a worthy endeavor. And we think it's going to be good for Mississippi. So going through what's going on, to give you a sense of what we actually do, here's 3 quick applications that we do with our technology. But in business, for example, in a consumer packaged goods company, they use our technology for buying billions of dollars of raw materials and coming up with the bill of materials or recipes for their products. They have measurable savings that are 5 to 10% or more of the value that gets optimized. We'll come back and talk about that. In government, our technology is used by the Department of Defense, the Defense Logistics Agency, for buying fuel for every military base in the world. And the bids are competitive, they're very complex, discounts for different quantities, ratios between jet fuel and gasoline and heating oil. Some places are delivered, some are not, so it's complicated. Optimal can figure out the best selection of the vendors to deliver the fuels for all those bases. Another example, this is a forthcoming application, but meal planning and grocery shopping. There's literally hundreds of grocery shopping applications where basically they enable keeping lists. What a user is able to do with Optimal is actually set a goal. These are the nutrition requirements we have for the family. We have different members who are going to eat meals at different times. We have people who have a low sodium diet or whatever. But we're able to actually do the optimization and take into consideration priorities in terms of brands, potentially discounts from manufacturers as well as the supermarkets and other things. So there's an entire scope of applications that we address. So we're going to have to scoot through this pretty fast. But in terms of what's going on that makes the market particularly interested in our technology, we've got these issues: climate change, war, inflation. Indeed, COVID has disrupted the workforce and created new lifestyles in terms of where we go to get food and do other things. Comments have been made earlier about e-commerce. This is obvious, but this is just an article out of the Wall Street Journal a few days ago about the continued impact of what's going on in terms of the war as well as climate change on the availability of grains in the food industry. So there's a lot of challenges that everyone is facing. So what we put together is a technology to address these issues. And we'll come back and talk about it some more, that the goal is to be able to be the go-to company for decision optimization throughout business, government, and personal lives. But think about all the decisions that are made. And here's some examples. We don't have time to discuss them, but nearly anything around us involves decisions. Staple cotton in Mississippi has 1 million bales of cotton in inventory. What bale ended up being used to make a particular shirt that you might be wearing? And how was that selection made? How are the coverings for these chairs cut to have the minimum trim loss so that you get the greatest yield out of those fabrics? How do you blend the coffee that's out in the hall so that we get the same taste? Everything that's going on, there's all these decisions. And what really is behind them is pretty complicated. So just for perspective, let's look at decision makings and get some definitions in place. Well, what is decision making? It's selection of a single course of action among all possible choices. But decision support is a tool that helps make better decisions. But finally, we get into what is decision optimization, and that's what OptimalAnswers and Optimal is addressing. Decision optimization is the selection of the single best solution that mathematically is provable to be the best solution. And that's what we have with Optimal. Optimal means to make as perfect as possible. Optimization is a very abused word. I'm not going to get into all the problems with it, but usually it does not mean to actually mathematically solve the problem that's being addressed. And we're counting down quickly here. All right, guessing suboptimal at 4 variables. It's like getting into an airplane that doesn't have any instruments in it. We're doing dead reckoning. How about spreadsheets? Well, 90% of them have errors in them. So you know that you're going to have problems there. To err is human, but to really mess it up, you got to have a spreadsheet. So not all of yours are perfect, but everybody else. Artificial intelligence for most common problems is not very good, but it has its place. And in fact, there's been some good examples presented earlier today. Okay, so the solution is a mathematical technique called linear programming. And here's a quote. Linear programming is the most powerful of all quantitative methods. It's the most effective decision support means ever. And why isn't it used more? Because it's complicated. And I can see some of you already looking at those equations and checking them out for accuracy. But the point is, we really ended up taming this remarkable technology so that it's not used in one-off applications. So just to move through this quickly, we have a set of foundation applications that solve minimum cost problems, maximum profit problems, event sequencing problems, a whole scope of applications. And what we've put together, is that it? Okay. Here's a few of our customers, big companies, as well as government entities. And we have been in a stealth mode. If you've got a winning lottery ticket, you don't go waving it around in public until you've got everything secure, right? The market, about $25 billion at least. If we get a 4% share of that, then it's $1 billion. And just to move in, this is a Wall Street Journal article just last week talking about computing, and basically the title of the article is Everywhere and All the Time. We want to be part of that. That's where we're headed with this company. And we've got all these marketing messages, but an analogy that we use is if you want to know something, Google it. But if you want to decide something, opt it with Optimal. And that's the branding that we're putting on our product in a go-to-market campaign that really gets into depth next year. The value proposition, measurable savings, typically 5 to 10%, often more. Do a savings analysis and you'll figure out what your savings is and you prove the payback. So there's all kinds of cool messages in our marketing campaign, and I don't want to get zapped by Tasha over there. We know we've got a $1 billion market. We don't know exactly how fast we'll get traction in the marketplace. We think it could be rapid, even explosive, but that's what's to be determined. Given the value proposition of measurable savings, we expect to be cash flow positive in less than a year. We've got 5 web sales channels. And just one other thing, we see this technology as being something that is actually good for humanity. That sounds pretty bold, except that the United Nations, for example, has a program, mathematics being used to generate science-based, fact-based decisions. And we want to be part of the non-government organizations that are studying how to solve some of these problems. For Mississippi, basically, Tony Jeff, one of his quotes, Tony, I think, left the room, but one of your quotes was, why not be the biggest? And that's exactly what we've set out to do with this. It's been toned down a little bit, but that's still what we're after. And to create a lot of high-tech, high-paying jobs in Mississippi. That's it.